Hey everybody, Jeff aka GCurse here. How are you all doing today? It is currently 10:24 a.m. and before I get to the case at hand, I thought I would do the normal morning welcoming since I'm on vacation. Might as well kind of share like what's going on with the weather and everything where I am. Here in the city of Kelso, Washington, it is actually cloudy and 50 degrees. It is actually a little bit of a drastic change than it has been for the last 4+ days, roughly, give or take. Normally it's been nice and sunny at this time in the morning, but today, ooh boy, those clouds sure have really kind of made themselves known, basically. Here, let's actually enhance this a little bit. There we go, and I understand. No thanks. So clouds giving way to some sun today. The high is supposed to be 63. Tonight it's supposed to be mainly clear early, and then areas of low clouds with a low of 44. Expect rainy weather late tomorrow through Wednesday afternoon. It is spring, though. It is spring. You gotta kind of get what you get, you know. Let's see here. Let's see here. Let's actually go with the hourly real quick. Hourly. So as of 11 a.m. it's 54 with cloudy. It looks like we start getting sun at about 2 p.m. and then hit 60, 61. Looks like we peak temperature-wise at 63 degrees. At 4 p.m. it'll be mostly sunny. So hopefully the cloudy day should end on a slightly brighter note. But as you heard just a second ago, it looks like we're supposed to have some rain on Wednesday. So look, yep, rain, mostly cloudy, cooler with a couple of showers, 52 high, low 38. I was really hoping that we're not going to be in the 30s again. I'm honestly done with the rain. I'm done with low temperatures. Maybe it's just me getting older. When I was younger, it really didn't bother me, but nowadays I just want some sun and some decent temperatures. Friday, it looks like it's supposed to be cloudy with shower and spots in the afternoon. Friday, just cloudy. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Holy shit, they actually extended it. All the way through Friday next week, we're supposed to have precipitation of some sort starting Saturday. Welcome back to work, Jeff. It's going to be raining. I can't really complain. It is spring. But when do we... Okay, the neck... Wow, we're actually going to have a little bit of a streak of wet weather, it looks like. I mean, it goes all the way through to the 15th, it looks like. So the 15th, which is Monday, it's supposed to be sunny, high 62. Tuesday, let's see, when does it rain again after that? Okay, it looks like we may have a little bit, like 5 days of decent weather, and then rain returns on Saturday. Of course, it's the day that, we're all, resting and everything. It's a day off from work, and starts raining. Thunder shower. Oh, my God. But like I said, you can't really complain. Cannot complain, ladies and gentlemen. That is something we cannot do. We cannot complain in this spring, after all. So, the question is, let's see here. Was there really a question I was going to give? I had it up here, but now I can't really think of it. Anyway, two ladies were brutally assaulted in the basement of an apartment complex. One of the ladies sadly died, and the other, although she survived, had a case of amnesia. I present to you the case of Doreen Picard. Originally, I was not aware of who that person was. The name, I didn't remember the name really that much. The name that it's tied to, though, everybody may recall. Her name was Susan Laferte. Susan was the one that actually sadly passed away from the attack. Doreen is the one that actually has amnesia. So it took me a minute. I did a little bit of a refresher on this case to understand who Doreen Picard was, because I looked at that and I'm like, I don't remember that name. But that's who Doreen Picard is. So we are going to get into this sad case here right after these commercials. Come on.
If you're in the dark about blinds, let Levolor show you the light. Introducing the world's first enlightened blind. Enlightened with space-age technology to control light better than ever. Open, every drop of light pours in because the slats are so slim they seem to disappear. Closed, the enlightened blind stops light cold. Extra slats have been added for better light control and extra privacy. Introducing the Enlightened Blind by Levelor, the best-made blind on Earth.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're all having a great start to your day. This is the portion of the show where I do the case viewing. Basically, if you are new to this series, we go to the Unsolved Mysteries wiki, and I have my secretary here. Her name is Jasmine. She will actually read to us the case, and I'll give you basically my thoughts about what it is that we're about to hear and everything. So let's switch it off of this. Do this. There we go. Let's turn off the weather since that's already been done. Let's maximize this. There we go. And I will start the beginning of the case here with the the information, and then Jasmine will take over. So her real name was Doreen, or is, I'm not sure if she passed away, but, well, as of the case, she did not pass away, but I'm not sure, like, right now, though. Her real name is Doreen C. Picard. No known nicknames. The location of this incident was Woonsocket, Rhode Island. I hear that name Woonsocket, and I can't help but think of it like a type of bird. That sounds like a bird's name. The date was February 19th, 1982. God, I think at this time, let's see, I was just a little over 3 months old at this time. Holy shit, where has the time gone? I look at these cases and I think, oh my god, I was so young when this happened. Ugh. Okay, anyway, so let's get started. I'm going to select a little bit of a portion here, and then I will do this, and Jasmine will read for us. So let's do this. There we go.
"22-year-old Doreen Picard lived in an apartment at 409 Providence Street in a quiet residential community in Woonsocket, Rhode Island. The apartment was owned by 25-year-old Susan Laferte and her husband, Ernie. At approximately 3:30 p.m. on February 19, 1982, another tenant of the apartment, Doug Heath, returned home from work. He lived there with his wife and stepdaughter. As Doug walked through the back door, he found Susan's 3-year-old daughter, Nicole, locked out of her apartment. When he saw her standing alone on the stairs, he knew something was wrong. He asked her where Susan was. She told him that Susan was downstairs, lying down.
Okay, so the one thing that popped off instantly as I heard what Jasmine was reading here, for some reason, I can't recall if they mentioned it in the show, but apparently, see here, apparently Susan Laferte, the computer referred to as Laferte, but it's Laferte if I remember correctly, but they referred to her as the apartment that she owned. I thought Susan and her family rented the apartment, as did Doreen Picard and her family, so I'm not sure if it was mentioned in the show. I just can't honestly remember, but I just thought that they rented it, so that's something different. I'm the type, if I had a child, I'd be the type of parent that if you saw me, odds are you'd probably see my son or daughter. I'd always make sure that, I'd be nearby where they are. So if you came to my residence, like my apartment where I live here, if you saw my child and you didn't see me at all, that'd be like a warning sign, like, oh my god, like, where is Jeff? If Jeff's not here, then his wife should be here. Where is she at? Like, I'd be like one of those kind of parents, like, where you see one, you should see the other. Okay, so let's continue let's drag down to here. Let's go right here.
Doug tried to open the first-floor door into the Laferte's apartment, but it was locked. He went down to the laundry room to check on Susan. He noticed blood splattered throughout the room. He saw Doreen's body basically sitting between the washer and the dryer. However, There was so much blood that he could not tell who she was. He turned to his left and saw Susan lying face down in a puddle of blood.
Okay, that is no way to go for me. Like, if I'm going to die, not due to natural causes, but like if I was going to be like homicidal violence, if I was going to die that way, I would want to go out fighting. Oh my god, if you're going to kill me, it would be like a fucking war, because I would not, I'm not saying that they simply accepted what was going to happen to them. I'm pretty sure they fought, but by the way that the video looked, if you watched the video, by the way, I will put the links to this video in the description of this video. But I would put up a fight. It's like, you're going to kill me, I'm going to take my pound of flesh before you finish me off, Okay, so let's unpause it. Sometimes the program acts up, so let's hope that it does not act up. When I unpause it, I should say that it acts up.
Blood. He immediately went upstairs and called the police. When paramedics and police officers arrived at the scene, they found that Doreen and Susan had been brutally attacked in the basement and left for dead. Doreen was pronounced dead at the scene. She had been beaten and strangled with her own sweater. Susan was unconscious and in critical condition. Paramedics stabilized her the best they could and then transported her to a nearby hospital. Susan was in surgery for 2.5 hours, during which a fiberglass plate was inserted into her skull. While she clung to life, Arnie waited and prayed. The doctors described her as hanging by a thread. Her injuries were so severe that it was touch and go at the T.
At the time. Okay, I want to come out and say I was wrong. For some reason, I thought it was Susan that died, and Doreen that survived. So I was wrong. I got mixed up a little bit about that. So it was Susan that survived, and Doreen that actually passed away. I don't know why it is that the name Doreen does not. That name does. I remember Susan Laferte, but not Doreen Picard. Okay, so basically, and then it said at the time, she was hanging by a thread. Like I said, the computer program does not pick up the very last word 99% of the time. Okay, let's go down to, go down to here.
Me. Miraculously, Susan survived, but she remained in a deep coma. Fearful for her safety, the police guarded her room around the clock. Sergeant Doug Connell of the Woonsocket Police Department felt that the attacker, in his mind, had left her and Doreen for dead. Sergeant Connell and the other detectives feared that the attacker would come back and kill Susan since she would be able to identify him. They were hopeful that when she came out of her coma, she would be able to tell them who was responsible. 30 days later, Susan finally came out of her coma. But she had no memory of her attack or her attacker. She developed total amnesia about what happened that day. She also sustained injuries that have left her physically disabled. She still occasionally loses her balance, has a broken left eardrum, and has only partial use of her right hand. And her amnesia sent the investigation of the seemingly motiveless crime back to
Square one, basically. The police were right to think like that. The guy, he intended to kill both ladies. The fact that one survived, I would not put it past, a criminal to want to finish off what they started. If he killed one person, he's not going to worry about killing another person. He would want, I'm pretty sure he'd want to kill Susan because of the fact that she, like they said, that she survived and she could possibly identify him. So what I would have done if I was the police captain, at all time, I would put at least two officers on Susan at all time to make sure that she was safe. Okay, let's see here. Okay, let's go down to here.
One, Susan said that everyone expected her to wake up and tell them who attacked her and killed Doreen. However, unfortunately, she does not know who attacked them. In the years since, her memory, or lack thereof, has remained the same regarding the attack. She does not know what their attacker looked like or anything else about him. She has no memory whatsoever of the attack. Even now, her family is concerned for her safety. Years later, the police are still searching for a motive. Susan was a housewife with 2 young children and an active neighborhood watch member. Doreen was a high school homecoming queen from Bellingham, Massachusetts. At the time of her death, she was studying for a career in childhood development. She lived upstairs with her boyfriend in the apartment building that the Lafertes owned. Ironically, she was packing to move to a new building on the very day of the attack. Like Susan, Doreen's parents desperately want to find the attacker. Her mother, Simone, notes that their family goes to bed thinking about her and wakes up thinking about her. They plan to keep pushing and knocking on doors because they believe someone has the missing piece to teach.
To the puzzle, basically. So a couple takeaways here is like, what kind of bad luck did Doreen have that she was actually planning on moving out the day that she was attacked? Oh my god, like, oh my god, it's kind of sad, you know. It's just like if she moved out like one day earlier, this could have been well. She would have been still alive. Who knows what would have happened to Susan, but she could have still been alive, possibly. Apparently, it looks like, I'm guessing this year, Doreen was but she was in, she was wanting a career in childhood development. Childhood development is actually one of the requirements that I got when it came to my degree that I had from college. So I kind of, I kind of smiled. At least, me and her had something like that in common, But anyway, so it's just kind of sad how fate can be a bitch sometimes. Okay, let's see here. Let's scroll down. Let's actually go down to here.
Puzzle. Susan maintains that she has almost no recollection whatsoever from New Year's Eve 1981 to February 19th, 1982. February 19th, the day of the attack, is a total blackout for her. On that day, she had lunch with her sister, Carol Rivet. At 1:30 p.m., 2 male friends came to the door. When Susan returned from the doorway, she stuck her head in the parlor and said, "Carol, I'm going downstairs. I'll be right back." When Susan came back upstairs, Carol could hear her talking to someone in the doorway. Carol got up to see who she was talking to. Carol recognized one of the men, but did not recognize the other one. Susan introduced Carol to him. The men then went to the basement to look at some puppies Susan was selling. Susan talked to them for 5 minutes and they left. 10 minutes later, at 1:45 p.m., Carol went home. That was the last time anyone saw Susan before the attack. No one can be sure what happened that day between 1:45 and 3:20 p.m. when Doug discovered Susan and Doreen in the basement. It is believed that both of them, either together or separately, went down to do their laundry when they were attacked. Sergeant Connell was shocked by the initial scene. To him, the attack was unnecessarily brutal. It was not just a simple assault. It was a frenzied attack and overkill. The attacker left his murder weapon, a 28-inch metal pipe, in the house as he left. It was not found for 4 days. Only one person apart from Susan saw the attacker, Nicole, who was in their apartment that afternoon. Her grandmother, Florence Laferte, tried to coax the details of the attacker's identity out of Nicole's memory. According to Florence, from the very beginning, Nicole said she let him in. She thought he was one of Susan's friends. Nicole said the attacker was a bit bigger than Ernie. He had a mustache. He wore jeans, sneakers, and a cap with the visor turned towards the back of his head. She said that when she heard Susan crying, she went downstairs. As she was going down, he was coming up. He had a rag in his back pocket. It was red and white. She called it polka dots. She was then locked in the hallway while he escaped through the front. After the attack, Nicole was questioned extensively by the police department. Sergeant Connell notes that, as much as they would like to have a person who saw the attacker that day, her story has changed too much to be of real value to the police. The stress and confusion that she was under made it difficult to get a solid, sure story from her. According to Sergeant Connell, this case is complex because of the different factors involved. First, there are two victims who bring their individual traits with them. They have their own friends and are involved in different things. Next, there were two newspaper ads that the victims had been running. One was for puppies for sale, and the other was for an apartment for rent. Sergeant Connell speculates that the attacker may have responded to one of the ads, was a friend of either Doreen or Susan, or their families, or was a
total stranger. God, it's amazing how much of this case here that we're hearing. Hold on 1 second. Sorry about that. It's amazing how much of this case was just real bad timing. I mean, like, both people lived in the same apartment. Both people had, Susan and Doreen had advertisements in the newspaper. I mean, it's just like fate really just was not with these two ladies. As somebody who works with students who have severe learning impairments, trying to get anybody trying to coax memories out of anybody, it's not that easy, and you'll find that a lot of the time it does not work that well because over time memories change. Especially like with the students I work with, we can have them vote on something. You know, like say Fridays we like to cook, and we have the poll on Tuesday. That way we have time to buy the ingredients. And they honestly do not remember by Friday what it is that we're cooking. You know, so it trying to get memories to surface from somebody who does not have learning impairments is probably going to be about as hard as it is because memories change. You know. Okay. Now where the fuck did I leave off at? Well, let's see. Stranger. Okay, I think we'll go here. Let's see here. Okay. If I'd already read this part, I apologize. I kind of lost track as I was talking to everybody.
Total stranger. Since the attack, Doreen's family has conducted their own informal investigation, which they believe has led to a series of anonymous phone calls. A few months after the attack, her father, Ron, received a phone call at about 2 a.m. The male caller said Ron should be concerned about his family and children and not pursue the matter so hard. The caller also said that, for openers, they might burn down his repair shop. Ron says every time they pursue the matter, they get more calls. He believes that they are making someone uneasy. For Simone, this experience has been like a nightmare. She feels that she is watching over her shoulder all of the time. She also fears that the attacker may come back for Susan since she might remember him. Susan still hopes every morning when she gets up that maybe that day, something will snap and the memories will come back. However, she notes that she is no closer now than she was when the attack occurred. She feels hurt. She does not look over her shoulder when she does things, but she always has a thought in the back of her mind. Is he still there? The police are at a dead end in their investigation, but feel that one new lead may solve.
This brutal murder is what the program failed to read. You know, it's kind of sad if you really think about it. You know, they are desperate for those memories to return for that Susan has to return to. Hopefully they can get the information. For me, on the other hand, I have memories, more specifically one memory that I always seem to relive. They say it's part of PTSD. The memory is when I found my mom dead. No matter how many days have passed, that memory is fucking still fresh. I can still remember it like it just happened yesterday. And they say that that's part of the PTSD. It hits us. Even if it meant forgetting my mom a little bit, I would not wish that type of memory on anybody, because it is so it's a gut puncher. I can have a really good day at work. I can have a really good day at work. Everything's going great, or I can I'll get a transformer in the mail I've been really waiting for, and that happiness I'm having right then is just gone, because all of a sudden that experience is replaced with the memory of me finding my mom. So in a way, I wish I could forget something. But these guys here, they're desperate for memories to come back. It's just cruel. It's cruel. Okay, so suspects. Nicole said that the attacker had a mustache, wore a cap, jeans, and sneakers, and was somewhat taller than Ernie. However, the description may not be accurate due to her young age at the time of attack. And that's another thing I kind of did not mention about trying to get memories to surface. Not only do memories change over time, it also changes if, it changes a lot more often if you're a child, because children, their mental mindsets are constantly in a state of flux. Like I said, the students I work with that have severe learning impairments, some of them have been measured at having the intelligence level of of a young child. And that's why, when I work with them, we try to help them remember stuff, or keep remembering the real simple things, like what is today? What is the month? What is the season? What holiday did we just have? We try to do that, because those seem to be like the easiest things for them to remember. Okay. So, extra notes. This case first aired on the May 18th, 1988 special number 7 episode of Unsolved Mysteries. It was later reprofiled in the Dennis Farina hosted series on the August 11th, 2009 episode. It was also featured on the show Guilty or Innocent and the Trail Went Cold podcast. Fearing for her safety, Susan asked for her identity be concealed during her interview. Some of the sources that state that Susan was 27 at the time of attack. Okay, now how long does this go? Ooh, boy, we got a little bit longer. So I'm actually going to select this whole thing, and I'm just going to let Jasmine read it all, and then I will continue when she gets done. Wow, there's a lot here. Holy shit. Okay. Wow, this is about as the update here, or the results, it's about as long as the case was itself. Holy shit. Okay, so let's read aloud.
Unresolved, the police received several tips as a result of the broadcast, which led them to new witnesses in the case. In 1990, 36-year-old Daniel Shaw, an unemployed Woonsocket construction worker, agreed to cooperate with the police. He implicated his friend, 37-year-old truck driver Raymond Tempest Jr., in Doreen's murder and Susan's attack. Shaw said that he and Tempest were at the crime scene and that Tempest had attacked the women. Tempest was a family friend of the Lafertes and had been considered a suspect from the beginning. However, the police did not have enough evidence to charge him at the time. Susan was close friends with Tempest's wife and had been the maid of honor at their wedding. Susan and Tempest were reportedly having an affair at the time of the attack. Susan remembered having 2 affairs, but she could not remember who they were with.
So that's what it was.
Shortly before the attack, the Lafertes arranged to mate their pit bull terrier with Tempest's pit bull. In return, he was to receive the pick of the litter, the ones that the Lafertes were selling at the time. He, in turn, promised to give it to John Allard. Allard was living with Sherry Richards, Tempest's former sister-in-law. Allard and Tempest were the 2 men who visited Susan's apartment on the day of the attack. After the visit, Tempest returned alone to Richard's apartment at around 2:30 p.m. He left to meet his brother-in-law, Bobby Montero, at a lounge. They returned to Richard's apartment at around 4:30 p.m. in Montero's large, maroon, 4-door car. Tempest had a bite or scratch mark on his wrist that had not been there earlier. He had also changed his boots. The next day, Tempest, Allard, and Richards discussed the attack. They agreed to lie and say that Tempest had been with Allard at Allard's father's house at the time of the attack. Tempest claimed he needed the alibi because he was using his brother's car to buy drugs. The car driven by Montero matched the one seen by Lisa Ledoux, Doug Heath's stepdaughter. She reported coming home at around 3:20 p.m. on the afternoon of the attack, shortly before him. While walking around the apartment building, she noticed an unfamiliar, big maroon car parked in the driveway next to the back door. When she entered the apartment, she heard movement coming from the basement, possibly from the attacker. By the time Doug returned home, the car was gone. Following the attack, Tempest reportedly confessed to the crime to several people. John Guarino, Tempest's neighbor, claimed that about a year later, he asked Tempest if he was responsible. Tempest said that he had gone into the basement and hit one woman over the head, and when another one came down, he beat her up as well. While describing the attack, he moved his right hand up and down as if he were reenacting what he had done. Guarino did not take the confession seriously at first, as Tempest was kind of laughing as he talked. When Guarino returned home, he told his then-girlfriend, Donna Bousquet, about Tempest's confession. A few weeks later, Tempest came to Guarino's apartment and appeared, very nervous, saying the cops were outside, watching his house. He also threatened Guarino, saying that he'd better keep his mouth shut about their previous conversation or else he and Bousquet would be seriously injured. He then confessed again, but added that they had no proof. Bousquet was also there when Tempest came to the apartment. She said he was upset at the time of the attack because Susan was going to tell his wife something and that he and his wife had just gotten back together. He also said that the other girl came down the stairs and saw him hitting Susan. He said he could not let her get away, so he had to do her, too. He also said that his father had paid off a large sum of money to make sure that Tempest's name was never mentioned about this, and that the pipe used in the attack had been wiped clean. Tempest also reportedly confessed to the attack on numerous occasions to Ronald Vaz. They occasionally snorted cocaine together. The first admission occurred 2 days after the attack. Tempest asked Vaz if Danny Shaw told him everything about it, to which he replied that Shaw had. Tempest then said that he was in serious trouble and that, "They'll get me for this one. My father won't get me out of this one."
He shouldn't got him out of anything. The father should be as guilty as he is.
According to Vaz, on several occasions, Tempest visited him and gave him detailed accounts of the attack. On one occasion, he said he had left the crime scene with Shaw and Montero in Montero's big maroon car. They drove to Tempest's house because he had blood on him. On another occasion, he told Vaz he was afraid Montero would talk. According to him, Montero had already told someone about his involvement in the attack. He also said his father had told him to get some strong alibis. On another occasion, Tempest told Vaz that on the day of the attack, he and Susan had argued in the basement over the puppy he was supposed to receive. Their argument then focused on their relationship. She wanted them to leave their respective spouses, but he refused. She hit him, and he beat her. On another occasion, Tempest reportedly brought crime scene photos of the victims to Vaza's house. He passed them around and said, "They said I did a bad job." I don't think I did a bad job, do you? Tempest also reportedly admitted to his involvement in the attack to Loretta Rivard, a prostitute. They had met at a bar in Massachusetts in January 1988. After drinking, snorting cocaine, and spending time together, they went back to his house. While there, he said to her, "Do you remember the girl that was killed in the basement in Woonsocket? I killed her, but I'll get away with it. I'm a Tempest, I'll slide." The police suspected that Tempest used his connections to law enforcement to cover up evidence and prevent him from being charged. Before retiring, his father was the chief inspector for the Woonsocket Police Department. At the time of the attack, he was the high sheriff of Providence County. Tempest's brother, Gordon, was a police lieutenant at the time. He took Tempest's first statement. According to Vaz, Tempest told him that on the day of the attack, Tempest's father and Woonsocket Police Captain Francis Lynch went to the crime scene and forced everyone out. They then told Gordon to find the pipe and wipe it clean of fingerprints. After being unable to find it, they called Tempest, and he told them its location. Gordon found it, wiped it clean, and placed it in another location in the apartment. A few days later, he and other officers returned to the apartment. While walking through one of the hallways, he found the pipe. Terrence Gelinas, who lived across the street from the apartment, said that when he arrived home on the day of the attack, he noticed Tempest's father nearby. He also said that in 1991, Tempest told him, "You're going to wish you never got involved in this. You're going to get into a lot of trouble if you speak to the police." According to Gelinas, Tempest said that he was going to kill one of the detectives involved in the investigation and that his father was going to take care of other people involved in the case, including the prosecutor. He also said that if he got convicted, his father would take care of you, referring to Gelinas. He also expressed regret for having the affair with Susan. Two locksmiths who were installing deadbolts at the apartment the day after the attack said they saw Gordon and another police officer there. One locksmith said he saw one of the officers holding a pipe wrapped in a piece of cloth. After Daniel Shaw came forward in 1990, a statewide grand jury was convened. During the 16-month investigation, 80 witnesses were called. On June 4, 1991, the grand jury indicted Tempest for Doreen's murder. He was arrested the next day. By that point, the statute of limitations had expired on Susan's attack. Prosecutors claimed that, along with a cover-up, Tempest's family also helped to intimidate witnesses involved in the case. Assailants reportedly cut Vaz off while he was driving on a country road in Burrillville, Rhode Island, and beat him, warning him not to testify against Tempest. Assailants also repeatedly fired a shotgun at him in another incident. Prosecutors theorized that Tempest attacked Susan in the basement with the pipe during an argument. They believe he killed Doreen because she walked in on the attack and tried to help Susan. They also believe Shaw and Montero acted as accomplices. However, in January 1992, Shaw, an alcoholic with mental health issues, recanted his testimony, claiming that it was coerced. He was dropped as a witness. At Tempest's trial, Montero was called as a witness for the prosecution, but he repeatedly invoked his Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination to questions from prosecutors. Tempest and his attorneys claimed he was charged because of overzealous police work and that investigators were so eager to convict him that they coerced witnesses to alter their stories. They also noted that no physical evidence tied him to the scene. Prosecutors claimed that the witnesses were telling the truth and that none of them received deals or rewards for their testimony. On April 22, 1992, Tempest was found guilty of second-degree murder and sentenced to 85 years in prison. Shortly after Tempest's arrest, Gordon was arrested and charged with 2 counts of perjury for falsely testifying before the grand jury. He was later charged with 5 more counts following his testimony at Tempest's trial. Prosecutors claimed he falsely testified that he never interviewed a Woonsocket man who disputed Tempest's alibi. On July 6, 1993, he was convicted on all charges. He was sentenced to 7 years in prison and has since been released. Montero was also charged with perjury. He was accused of lying in his grand jury testimony about his whereabouts on the day of the attack. In June 1992, he was convicted and sentenced to 5 years in prison. Captain Lynch was suspended but later cleared of allegations that he meddled in the case. Captain Maurice Gillette was accused of not passing along a 1984 tip from an informant who claimed that Tempest had killed Doreen. The charges were later dismissed. Since his arrest, Tempest has maintained his innocence. He claimed that he never had an affair with Susan or argued with her that day. He also claimed that he was drinking beer and getting high with Montero and other friends when Doreen was killed. He said he did not come forward with this information sooner because he did not want to embarrass his family. He did not tell his lawyer about this until after his 1993 trial, for unknown reasons. In 2002, Tempest approached the New England Innocence Project. For help. They agreed to take on his case. He and Gordon claimed that 2 police officials, Sergeant Ronald Pennington and Police Chief Rodney Remblad, targeted Tempest for political reasons. According to Tempest, Gordon was investigating Remblad for narcotics dealing, bribery, and auto theft. Gordon had also busted a chop shop and arrested Remblad's brother-in-law for possession of stolen vehicles. Gordon believed that Remblad was upset with him and that Remblad targeted Tempest as a result. Tempest claimed that Pennington and Remblad coerced witnesses by feeding them information about the crime and convincing them to implicate him. He claimed that the witnesses were vulnerable to police pressure because many were involved in drugs and/or prostitution. They also gave inconsistent and highly suspect testimony. Tempest claimed that the prosecutors were overzealous and withheld evidence favorable to his defense. Gordon claimed he uncovered evidence that pointed to the real attacker a few weeks after the attack, but the lead was never seriously pursued by his superiors. He said he disclosed the suspect's identity to the 1991 grand jury, but was told the suspect had an alibi. Tempest and Gordon claimed that the real attacker was a man named Donald DeGuess, who died in 2011. According to one source, at a get-together after Doreen's funeral, Nicole saw DeGuess and said, "I think that's the man who boomed Mama." She had also interacted with Tempest, but never reacted negatively to him. DeGuess reportedly made incriminating statements to witnesses. He had an alibi for the day of the attack, but there were apparent inconsistencies with it. When asked in the hospital to identify her assailant, Susan wrote the letters D.A. and either A.Y. or A.G. When asked if DeGuess was her attacker, she nodded. However, after she recovered, she said she did not remember being questioned or naming DeGuess as her attacker. Furthermore, another name she nodded in the affirmative to was Donald Duck.
So clearly she was still having mental problems at the
Tempest's
time.
lawyers located a deed that cast doubt on some of Ronald Baza's testimony. He claimed that several conversations between him and Tempest occurred shortly after the attack on a farm he owned. However, the deed showed that he did not purchase the farm until several months later. Tempest's lawyers conducted DNA tests on hairs found in Doreen's hand. The tests determined that 2 hairs did not belong to him, and a third one could not be excluded as his. However, investigators theorized that the hairs came from the basement floor. Supporting this theory is the fact that the hairs came from at least 2 different people. Also, no roots were attached to the hairs, meaning that she most likely did not pull them from her attacker. In 2014, Tempest and his attorneys asked for his conviction to be vacated based on his allegations of police and prosecutorial misconduct. The request was denied. In 2015, the request was made again. In July, after reviewing the case, State Superior Court Judge Daniel Procaccini decided to vacate Tempest's conviction. He concluded that the police and prosecutors had violated Tempest's right to a fair trial by coaching witnesses, using improper police procedures, failing to disclose favorable evidence, and suppressing key details about a witness's changing statements. Judge Procaccini found that prosecutors did not disclose statements from the owners of the maroon car that was reportedly seen at the crime scene. They said that, although they sometimes lent the car to Bobby Montero, they did not let him borrow it on the day of the attack. Judge Procaccini noted that one witness, Lisa Ledoux, originally did not mention seeing an unfamiliar car outside the apartment. However, after a conversation with an investigator years later, she remembered seeing the car. Judge Procaccini ruled that the initial investigation was mismanaged. He stated the crime scene was never properly secured, and the only person available to gather evidence was unfamiliar with standard procedures. However, he also noted that the newly discovered evidence did not prove Tempest's innocence. Tempest was released on bail and remained in home confinement while prosecutors debated whether or not to retry him for Doreen's murder. In 2016, the Rhode Island Supreme Court upheld Judge Procaccini's ruling. In March 2017, prosecutors announced that they planned to retry Tempest, even though 9 witnesses had died since the first trial. They maintained that his accusations of prosecutorial misconduct were pure speculation and conjecture that would be best addressed through cross-examination at a new trial. However, on December 18, 2017, Tempest entered an Alford plea on the second-degree murder charge. This meant that, although he maintained his innocence, he accepted that there was enough evidence to convict him. As a result of the plea, he was sentenced to time served and released from police custody after serving 24 years in prison. Tempest later claimed that he felt forced to enter the plea because the judge's pretrial rulings favored the prosecutors, and he feared spending more time in prison. With his plea, the police consider this case closed. However, there is still debate over whether he was responsible. In December 2020, Tempest filed a lawsuit against Pennington, Remblatt, and the town of Woonsocket for their alleged roles in his conviction. He argued that he was improperly arrested, unfairly tried, wrongfully convicted, and imprisoned due to the unlawful and improper actions of Remblatt and Pennington. In April 2021, the town of Woonsocket and former investigators asked a federal judge to dismiss the suit. In July 2022, the courts.
It says the courts dismissed all but one charge in the lawsuit. I'm sorry, but I still think Tempest did it. I still think he did it, and it said, let's see here. He entered the Alford plea of second-degree murder charge. That means that even though he maintained his innocence, he accepted that there was enough evidence to convict him. I go by the idea that if you're innocent, why would you agree to anything? It's kind of like that whole thing, the whole issue with Michael Jackson. It's believed that he did some questionable things to children. What did he do? Instead of fighting these accusations, he reached settlements. Now, to me, I'm sorry, I know this is going to upset some people, and honestly, I don't care. If you pay out a settlement, to me and to a lot of other people, that is the same as an admission of guilt. If you're innocent, why are you paying out a settlement? Take their asses to court. Make them prove that you're guilty. So once Michael Jackson started paying out those settlements, yeah, that really kind of turned me. It's like, dude, if you're so innocent, why did you pay out these settlements? And the common argument I hear is, well, he just didn't want to go to court and make a big thing out of it. If the guy is innocent, he has nothing to worry about. Evidence would prove that he was innocent. People who, what I like to go by is, people who are innocent don't ask for attorneys when they're being questioned because they're innocent. People who are innocent don't agree to settlements because they're innocent. People who are innocent do not agree to take some sort of plea bargain. Yeah, he'd still end up going to prison, but at least he could actually say, hey, I'm innocent. I'm innocent. These charges against me are false. I was wrongfully convicted. He'd have that, but the fact that he accepted this second-degree murder charge, it kind of makes him look even more fucking guilty now. So yeah, I don't buy this whole thing that he was some innocent victim, that, you know, the cards were against him. No, I think that honestly, he did have that affair with Susan. I think that she did want him to call off his relationship with his wife or girlfriend, whatever. I think that she threatened him that she was going to expose him. He probably lost his cool, because if he was married, odds are that his wife could take him for everything he has. And he said, fuck it, you want to play this way? And he beat the living shit out of her. That's just my theory. The dogs, I think the issue with the dogs was pretty much next to nothing in the grand scheme of everything. Yeah, I don't think that this guy was innocent at all. I think he was guilty as fuck. Like I said, innocent people don't ask for lawyers when they know they've done nothing wrong. Innocent people do not accept settlements. And innocent people do not agree to a second-degree murder charge. So, when I return, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say also thank you to Jasmine for helping read this rather large case. Holy shit, look at how long this case was. This was a very long reading here. Holy shit, look at all this. There was a lot here. Okay, but before I do that, actually, let's go down to the bottom here. Let's see here. So we have Doreen Picard at Find a Grave. Doreen Picard, born October 22nd, 1959. Just a couple years before my mom was born. She was born in Bellingham, Norfolk County, Massachusetts, USA. She died February 19th, 1982. She was 22 years old. Woonsocket Province, County, Rhode Island, USA. She was buried at the Saint Jean Baptiste Cemetery in Bellingham, Norfolk County, Massachusetts. Plot is B24. Okay, let's see here. We only have a couple entries here for her parents. Ronald L. Picard. Date of birth was 1941. It's unknown when, you know, if he's still alive. It's the same for her mom, Simone Bertha Robideau Picard, 1942 to unknown. Here's a picture of. Is this Doreen? Yeah. Okay, I thought this was Susan. Okay, never mind. Here's a picture of Doreen, and we have a rather large. I'm guessing this is a marker for like the whole family because it looks like we got a lot of stuff here. Here's her another tombstone. Here's her final resting place, Doreen C. Picard, 1959 to 1982, daughter of, and I can't read the rest. This is one thing I would change if I had control of this country. I feel that people who, you know, who did good things in their life, you know, or were not criminals at least, when they die, their final resting place should be always nicely maintained. Yes, I understand that there are groundskeepers that keeps the yards, maintained and everything. But I've seen tombstones that have weathered and basically become unlegible, or unlegible. I think that's the right name. That you can't even read what it says anymore. I would have a setup that these tombstones, like how you can see that it's starting to get really worn here. I would have a setup where that these tombstones should be restored. This is the final place of where people are going to be spending the rest of their life. They should have the family should not have to worry about it becoming so deteriorated where you can't even really read it that much anymore. But yeah, let's see here, and that is it. So that was it for the case viewing, and then the little bit extra with the Find a Grave. Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. When I return, it will be When I return, it will be with the final thoughts. So stay tuned, and I will be right back.
Get your sea shined up, grab a stick of juicy fruit. The taste is gonna move ya. Take a sniff, pull it out. The taste is gonna move you when you pop it in your mouth. Juicy fruit is gonna move ya. It juices soft, it gets right to ya. Juicy fruit, the taste is gonna move ya.
Okay, everybody, welcome back. Boy, this was a long case, wasn't it? This is actually one of the longest, I think, that I've been doing with this Black Site series. A lot of them did, they always have a results portion, but this one was actually pretty long. I think the results was actually a little bit longer than what the case part was. But anyway, so my final thoughts are, I think that Tempest is guilty as fuck. You will never be able to convince me otherwise. I'm not even going to try and reread that whole last portion that he talks about how he was innocent. I don't believe that shit at all. I think he was the guilty. I think he was guilty. And the thing is that he found a few bleeding hearts. He spun them a story, and they believed it. They believed it. And I will go to my grave constantly thinking that if he was so fucking innocent, he would not take that plea deal. Or that plea deal or whatever. Like I said, innocent people do not agree to something that they did not do. They do not need a lawyer if they're innocent because they have nothing to hide. They do not accept settlements because they did nothing wrong. You do not accept a second-degree murder murder charge that basically says that there's enough evidence there that could convict you if you did not do it. So he's guilty as fuck. It's sad that he felt that the only way out of this fuck up that he did was to basically kill one person and beat another to the point that they were almost dead. And the fact is that he is now, he was free for a little bit, but then he got convicted again. Wait, no, I think he's free again anyway. The justice system failed in this case. They should have basically kept hammering him. They should have hammered him until he fucking cracked and he sang like a fucking bird. That's what he should have done. Or they should have done. But that's just my opinion. I do not think that this guy is innocent at all. I think that he is scum. But that's not just for me that's just not me, this video is just not for me, it's for everybody. If you are watching this, what do you think? Do you think Tempest, do you think he killed Doreen Picard and seriously assaulted Susan Laferte? What do you think, basically? But that is it, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight I have another case. Let me see here. Let me pull up my browser. See here. payment. It'll be 1 second. I really need to have a shortcut just to go to my... So for the PM today on April 1st... Yep, we have another Black Site Files for you. It is the case of Beale's treasure. Who likes a good treasure hunt? I'll be honest, I love a good treasure hunt. Then again, the cynical side of me also thinks that sometimes these treasure hunts are manufactured by the person who perpetrates these treasure hunts, basically to troll a bunch of people. It's like, yeah, watch this, I'm going to die, I'm going to tell people I buried a big amount of treasure, and I'm going to watch from heaven, if you believe in heaven, that I'm just going to watch them start running all over the place trying to find this treasure that doesn't exist. But anyway, Beale's treasure tonight in the PM. Stay tuned, and I'll see you all then. My name is Jeff, aka GCurse. Wishing you all a great day and stay safe, everybody. Peace out. Okay, now, peace out.